face authentication as a secondary level or an extra added level of security over the usual username and password authentication we already have. So your face is the one that you use for securing your applications. You're using the face.com API. We have divided this into modules, and they are the server module, registration, training, preferences, recognition, and memo pad. Essentially, these are the most important parts of our app. Registration, it's a simple registration screen. You just have to provide your user ID and a fallback password when you're actually registering it for the first time, and then you use the fallback password if something goes wrong. I mean, you're attempting to get into it, but you're not able to. Then that's when you use the fallback password. It's already stored on the server. And second, as soon as you register, you make a call into the training activity. What does the backend server do? All the images that you're capturing or all the images that you're entering into the app are to be posted on the server. And then the recognition, everything is basically the backend server synchronizes everything. So all the images are posted onto the server. Next time you actually open the app, you want yourself recognized, then you have to go back to the server, look up the images there, and come back. So that's what. Yeah. I mean, they'll talk in detail. And then training, you can train it in two ways. You can train it from the camera, and then you can use the gallery. You can use the existing pictures. All these are then sent to the server. And authentication recognition, the image is sent on the server for comparison. You'll receive a true or false response from the server that will tell you actually whether the training went through, the recognition went through or no. Memo pad, Ben will talk about it in detail. Preferences, these are the preferences that you can set. Like, you have a lot of preferences, the number of images that you want to actually train on. Now, right now, I think the limit is 4. You have to have 4 images before you can train your app to recognize you. Now, if you're on code.
Why don't you explain what we're talking about?
Yeah. So I did the server implementation. Pretty much what happens is, if it's the first time you're using the app, you need to register. So you can just set your name. So you would have, for example, Martin at mynamespace.com, and then after you're registered, then you can take some pictures of yourself using the phone's camera, or you can take some pictures from the gallery. So you have those two options. So what the server does. The server just takes the pictures that were sent to. We have a function that we call to train the images. So once that function is called, it just uploads the images to the server, and then once the training starts, we use the face.com API, and it basically trains the pictures for us. It trains your pictures for us, and then the server also does the recognition part. So when you're ready to recognize your face, you take a picture of yourself, and it goes to the server, and we send it to face.com API, and it tells us the percentage match of the faces. So that's what the server does. The server stores the training images, and it also stores the image that it's comparing against your training images too.
All right, so pretty much for training, what we've done is that we've taken all right, so we provide 2 methods for capturing the images. You can take the images yourself, and you can also use pre-existing images. We implemented a custom camera application to actually deal with capturing the images when we're using the camera. And what we pretty much allow the user to do is that you're required to take a specified number of images. Once you capture those, you go back and you're able to see the images you've captured once you've viewed them, and you can verify. So if there's something wrong, for instance, one's blurry or something, you can delete it and replace it. Once you're verified, then I just pass those images through the face.com API, and it performs a training process which just does an analysis on those images and stores them locally, so that whenever it is that you actually need to do an authentication, it takes the captured image at that time and compares it to those. So for recognition, what we do is that we also use the custom camera interface. and we just pretty much allow the user to capture the image at a time. We give them a timed capture. Once they capture that image, we pretty much forward that to the Face.com API for authentication, and it pretty much just gives a true or false response based on a specific threshold that's set for the, what do you call it? How much it matches, the percentage match between the submitted image and the images that were used for training. We've also implemented some amount of control for this, so we allow the camera to autofocus occasionally so that it at least allows a pretty much clear image to be captured whenever the image is being captured. We just use the screen, so instead of trying to find a button on screen, any on-screen click will actually capture the image. There's also a nice timer display on the camera, so we overlay a counter and also an image ID on the UI once you're capturing the images, so you can know how many images you have remaining to capture, or you also have a timer in the case of when you're doing authentication. Ben will actually talk about, so once you're authenticated, it passes you into, for this case, we've used a MemoPad app, but what we really envision is that the facial recognition can be pretty much, it can just be the security for any app that you want to use it for.
All right, so my portion of the project was making a little memo pad. It's actually, there's a project on his website beforehand, and I updated it so that it uses a database. So it can go an SQLite database inside there. So it goes ahead and just only brings up the stuff that you're registered to. One of the future implementations will be using AES encryption, but that'll be down the road. So anyway, it's a regular application. So we're going to show you how this works with Martin. There we go. All right, cool. So when you first sign up for the application, you open up FaceAuthentication. It goes ahead, takes your username, whatever you want, and a password. So it goes through, and you can choose from camera or from images. So it goes from there, takes a couple pictures. Now for the memo pad, it brings up this screen and it asks for your user. So what's your username? Okay. So Martin's already registered, and we're going to go ahead and submit. So we go ahead and click this face right here. And tap the screen. And it starts counting down. I'm going to point it at him so we can actually authenticate.
It's kind of awkward.
Okay. So took his picture. He's going to go ahead and authenticate. And it was successful. So you go ahead, you make a title. Very good. You can go ahead from here, save it inside of there. And this is just an example of an application that could use the authentication system. This is not the only thing.
Yeah, what it actually
If you take a picture of her face, will it not start the app?
It'll give you a box with an X in it saying authentication was unsuccessful. So.
Well, the point behind our app is that you can integrate it with other apps. I mean, the MemoPad is not our app. Our app is the face authentication. MemoPad actually calls the activity in our app.
Right, and the original idea was to try and replace a lock screen, but then with Android, that's not exactly the easiest thing to do.
That's not compiling.
Yeah, kernel compiling. That's not fun.
Y'all wrote the face comparison app?
The what?
Did y'all write the face comparison app?
No,
We use the Face.com API.
Oh, there's face. I thought you were saying face. Face.
Yeah, face.com API.
Okay.
So.
Well, it can actually integrate with Facebook.
Good.
The light condition is not that good, or
That's kind of the idea of doing training. So it gets the face from several, you can get it from several angles and different lighting conditions or whatever. So it has more of an understanding of what it's comparing against. So the more, pretty much the idea is the more images you use for training, the better, the more likely it will be that it can recognize you.
And actually, in the training part of the app, which I was already trained, so they didn't do that. But in the training part, you ask for a password and for a fallback password.
So because since it requires a Face.com API for connection, if there's no connectivity, that's when it falls back to using a password authentication.